Hello, Adriana.
Hi. Hello. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you so much for agreeing to have this conversation with Black women who coach with me. I would love for you to tell me and our viewers who you are and a little bit about what you do.
Absolutely. Of course, my name is Adriana, and I'm the owner and founder of the Elan Principle, which is a coaching program and resource for Black, Millennial, and Gen Z aged women who want to live beautiful lives within their careers, within their image, and within their lives. I do that by connecting with them and providing resources to them within the areas of image, life, and career coaching. I started that journey as a career coach. My expertise is within human capital management, HR. I work in diversity, equity, and inclusion now, and I found that my career coaching always turned into life coaching. It never stopped or began and ended right at the career. There in many instances areas where I recognize that there may have been self-limiting beliefs, there may have been doubts, there may have been other areas that were impacting um, potential barriers to getting the kind of raise, the kind of salary they wanted, the kind of roles or jobs. And so it naturally progressed into there. And I increased my education within life coaching and image consulting, ended up getting, and getting certified in that as well. And I found that it really works very beautifully together in working with Black, millennial aged, Gen Z aged women.
So, what inspired you to coach?
Honestly, it's always been part of who I am, part of who I was. So even before I was a coach, I always served as some kind of guide, advisor, mentor, professionally or non-professionally. Even within my friend group, I was and am the friend who, may weigh in or was always the person who someone felt that they were comfortable enough to talk to, and they knew that they would get compassionate but direct advice or feedback on what my situation was. I think a big part of what led me to move into coaching specifically is that I found myself working in careers where
Mhm.
that was baked into part of what I did. So if it was working with a student, I used to work in the nonprofit workforce development space as a mentor. If it was working with a student, if it was working with a colleague as a peer advisor, um, that naturally grew from that. And so I said, well, if I started a consultancy, consultancy is consulting and it's also coaching. That can be a beautiful meld of the two, and that's how it started when I started my first business, which was in business consulting.
Okay.
At this point, about 6 years ago, might be
Mhm.
a little bit more than that. Yeah.
So, you said that your primary clients are Black Gen X and Black millennials. Um,
Gen Z and
Gen Z, I'm
millennials.
sorry. I
Yeah.
still am not very good at keeping track of like all the different generations.
Yeah.
Um, and what would you say, you're a Black woman, you're a coach. Why
Yeah.
would you say that them having you as a Black woman coach matters and is important?
There's so much. There's so much related to that question, and I think it comes down to a combination for me specifically between, of course, age, perspective, and the tools that I use. I find that I naturally gravitated towards millennial aged women as I am a millennial aged woman. We've experienced and encountered so much because we're the social media generation, and so many of the challenges that impact us, as well as many of the tools that benefit us, are very unique to our generation. We've lived a life where there wasn't this huge tech boom, social media boom, but we also grew up as it became part of our everyday lives. And so I find that even when I connect with women, social media is really important to them. The images that they see are really important to them. Sometimes it negatively impacts them,
Mhm.
us, and sometimes it positively impacts us. Sources of inspiration, sources of guidance, tools. And with Gen Z grew up within that age, and so I find that my use of social media and connecting, engaging, making certain references really allows them to feel much more connected because not only do they relate to me, because I am a Black woman, I'm very much a Black woman. I'm a first generation American, so I have that perspective as well with a world view, as a world traveler. But I also am able to connect and to reach out to them with very different modes of communication, which is very, very important to me. It's important for me to meet my clients where they're at and what's most comfortable to them. So if they would rather, trade emails back and forth, I can do that. If they would rather engage with me via my Instagram, look at some of my images or things like that, we can do that too. If they want to be on TikTok, we can do that too. So I'm on all of them. And so, so it's really important to me to create content and to make myself accessible and through all of those methods.
And I love that you said that, because one of the critical things for getting the ideal coach for you is finding someone that is accessible, that feels accessible to you,
Yeah.
in my experience, and that you feel like you can relate to on some level.
Yeah.
And so, you're a millennial. I guess I'm the generation before you. I know I'm the parent of a Gen Y, I think. So
Like a Gen Xer,
Gen
Gen X.
Xer. You're right. So I
Yeah.
guess I'm a Gen Xer. And I think you are right. It's interesting. We have very similar backgrounds. So I'm also a person who spent most of my career, pretty much all of my career, working nonprofit arena and overseeing HR for the majority of that time,
Mm,
even though it was more in an oversight management capacity. And then I also had done it hands on as
yeah.
well in the beginning of my career. And then I'm also a first generation American as well.
Mm,
So it's really, and it is
yeah.
a specific experience
Yeah.
being, doing all of those things. So it's very exciting to hear someone leaving that space and going into coaching,
Yeah.
because one of the things that I spent a lot of time, especially in the latter part of my career, was trying to make sure that the staff had access to coaching as a part of
Yeah.
professional development, which not all organizations do, but it's a really
Absolutely.
critical, to me, really critical component to having an effective professional development program is providing coaching as widely as possible. A lot of organizations only provide it to their management staff, which I think is a big mistake. But
Yeah.
trying to allow people to have access to it as early as possible in their careers is like really critical. So I'm really glad
Absolutely.
to see that you kind of like took the opportunity to branch out and
Yeah.
um, create more opportunities for people to receive coaching. Um, what kind of, what would you say to someone that was looking for a coach? What qualities
Hmm.
would you tell them that they should look for to decide what coach is right for them?
Yeah. Because there are so many coaches, advisors, therapists. I mean, it's the same advice that I give to my coaching clients when they talk about therapists, and I always make sure as part of their onboarding. To make sure that I make the distinction and delineation
Right.
between myself as a coach and the therapist. And I say it's a personal relationship, and it's one that you have to feel very comfortable with, because it's not going to work unless you have that level of comfort. So I'd say there are a handful of key areas to pay attention to. The first is, how do you feel when you talk to them? So when we have our initial conversations, do you feel comfortable talking to me? Do you feel like I'm someone, just based on how I speak, based on how we're speaking together, that you feel that there's a level of trust, that there's a comfort, that you won't be judged negatively? Do you like the way that I'm speaking to you? Are you receiving what I'm saying to you in the way that it's intended? There's so many factors. So it starts with that comfort level, because we can't talk our way out of feeling uncomfortable. And that's not something that I would take personally at all. It's just, it needs to be that right fit. The next step would be, when looking for a coach, if you're unsure about it, ask for references. So do you have anyone who would feel comfortable talking to me, who was a previous client? I want to be able to see, what methods you used, or how this person related, and what they have to say about the experience. The third is, and I think this is important for any onboarding process when you're onboarding a new client, is making sure that you have a really clear idea of, in a sense, what it is you'd like to gain from the experience. Many times, you may engage in a coaching relationship with some kind of idea. It doesn't have to be very specific, but you have some kind of idea, and that your coach is able to speak through really what the methodology would be, in your journey together. So if it's weekly or monthly calls, if it's Zoom chats, if it's emails, phone calls, we need to be able to be clear about how we're going to be connected.
What kind of person should hire you as their coach?
Love that question. So the person that should hire me as a coach should be someone who feels that all the methods that they've been trying to improve their lives have worked a little bit, but not to their liking. They've maybe had some false starts and stops. They know that they're meant to do something more with their lives. They want to take control of their career, their image, their life, and they feel a deep urge to get better, to elevate. And they're not entirely sure how best to do it, but they know that it would work ideally working with someone who will hold them accountable, who will be their cheerleader, and who will also be very, very real and authentic with them along the way. I work best with clients who are not career driven, but goal oriented and have an idea of what it means to, in a sense, hold themselves accountable because I hold my clients accountable and I hold myself accountable. So this should be the kind of woman who, in the way that when I reached out to my own coach, when I knew, okay, I need to do something, I need to figure out my life.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be with someone who's not necessarily going to just say everything's going to be okay, but who will hold me accountable, who will relate to me, and who will um, really hold space for me to be myself, while also acknowledging that I'm on a journey as well.
That is
So,
a critical thing that you said because I think um, you have to be ready. And I mean, I think that's the
yeah,
theme that I've heard from all of the coaches that I've talked to is that you have to be ready. So in some instances, people are told that they need to get coaching. And I always think that's not the best way for someone to get
yeah,
coaching because then it feels like a punishment and not something that they need. But the best coaches are people who will, as you said, make space for you, but also hold you accountable for things
yeah,
that you need to do to get where you want to be. Because at the end of the day, as I always tell people, the only person who can change your life is you.
that's
So
right. That's
you can't,
right.
coach is not going to do it for you, but the coach is going to help you to get where you need to go in order to
Yeah,
do it for yourself. So it's really critical for a person to actually be ready and
yeah,
recognize that they want to do something different, even if they need help with figuring out exactly what that looks like and how to get there. But if they're being put there because someone else told them that they need
hmm
something, it's also a lot harder. And going back to what you were saying about finding a coach, one of the reasons why I created the Black Women Coach Directory is because I had a hard time finding a Black woman to be my coach. Um,
yeah,
Most of the people that I spoke to had coaches, but none of them were Black women. And I was pretty clear that that's what I felt like I needed. And it took a while to find the right person, but when I did, she was exactly what
yeah,
I needed. And so I do think that what you were saying about referrals, that's what we basically do now. It's like you're sending emails
yeah,
saying, do you know anybody? And I really want people to have a place where they still have to do some vetting once they, pick a couple people, but at least they can find a place where there are not
yeah.
many different, Black women that they can reach out to and say, oh, this person might be what I'm looking for. Um, what are you up to right now? You're a career coach. What are like any upcoming projects or products that you're putting out that you'd like us to know about?
Yeah, so in career coaching, I have found that was very, very popular several years ago, and I have found that over the years, particularly within the last year, that a lot of my clients, I may engage with them in some areas of career coaching, but we're really going through life strategy sessions. We're talking about image, which is a big deal, and particularly because I work with Black women. We come in a variety of shapes and sizes and have different senses of fashion and style and things like that. And I found, particularly for women who, want to target areas around just their overall wardrobe, their appearance. A lot of my clients are curvy women like myself who want to either maybe have a goal of potentially losing weight or dressing or maybe updating their wardrobe. So I found that that's been a bigger emphasis. And so with that being said, in the coming weeks, and so I strongly encourage anyone who's watching this and additional clients to make sure to just sign up for my mailing list. I will be making an announcement around a 2-month program that I've developed. I'm putting the final touches on them, which will be a really comprehensive guide on revamping and elevating your image and your life. So it starts with creating a plan and what that looks like. I go through looking at clothing, how to revamp your wardrobe on a budget, how to present your best self virtually within a working world. So I've started a job and onboarded new jobs totally through a computer without meeting anyone, and there's still a way that you can present yourself really well in those areas, and also how to navigate life with particular goals, and what that looks like, and how you can base and reward yourself by meeting certain milestones. So that's coming up in a couple of months. I don't have a specific date just yet, but I keep those on my mailing list abreast of what's going on and when it should be coming out. So strongly encourage that. And as far as what else is going on, I did mention that I'm in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm the senior DEI manager of a social media marketing agency. So I mentioned earlier around my adeptness in general social media, so that it works really well. And that I work with a team of advertisers and graphic designers and creatives who work in social media, and managing the social media, the diversity, equity, and inclusion aspect of that. It gives me really a bird's eye view, as well as being able to lend my expertise and guidance on the images and communications we put out for some of the brands that we represent. So,
Well, that's pretty cool. That's really,
yeah.
um, and my last question to you is, what is one important thing that you've learned about yourself through coaching?
Yeah, and thinking about this question, I would have to say that it's a combination of one, my clients. My clients come to me, but as in a sense of like a student and a teacher pupil coach client relationship. But one thing I've learned about myself is that even clients who have a long journey or have a lot of hurdles to get through, I always learn something more about myself throughout the process. I either learned that, maybe I should work on this a little bit better. And I learned that most of us, the majority of us, even if we think we have a lot to go through, or we have so much that we need to handle, so much of us are so much harder on ourselves than we should be.
Yeah.
And that's reflected on me all the time when I engage with clients. So as I coach clients, in many instances, I'm coaching myself, particularly around how hard I can be on myself sometimes, and really just holding grace and having grace for myself. And I would say the other piece is that um, I just really, really, every time I engage with a new client, every time a client has a new win, it just affirms for me just how much I really, really love being a coach. It's just, there's just nothing quite like it that in a sense lights the fire. That's what Elan means. It's spirits, it's friendship in that space. There's nothing that quite lights that fire for me. In the way that I really, really love coaching. Coaching to me it's a vocation, but it's an extension of who I am. So to be in a space where I'm really walking in my purpose, to be in service to others as they realize their own, there's just nothing like it. And so even with sometimes more difficult cases or challenging cases, I love that as well. So I would say those are the two spaces: holding space for myself and giving myself grace as I encourage my clients to give themselves grace, and just how much I really love what I do.
Well, I really love what you said about coaching yourself as you coach others, because, you know, if you're not learning, I always say you're not growing. And
Absolutely.
I love what you said about, I think Black women specifically, we are extremely hard on ourselves,
Yeah.
and and the world is hard on us, and we don't get a lot of times the grace that we even give to others. So it's very important for us
Mm,
to treat ourselves well and to love
yeah.
ourselves more, because we are not going to always get it back. And so we have to find a way to love each other and love ourselves as much as
Yeah.
possible, so that while we're trying to teach the world to make space for us, we're doing the same thing for ourselves. It has really been a pleasure meeting you and
Yeah.
talking to you. Thank you for agreeing to chat with me and making the time
Absolutely.
to have this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're done.